The suitcase zipper sounded louder than anything I'd ever heard in that house. My hands were shaking. Behind me, the kitchen faucet dripped into a sink full of dishes no one else would touch. I pulled the bag off the bed and caught my reflection in the hallway mirror. Mascara smudged, jaw tight, eyes that didn't look like mine anymore. I grabbed my keys. The front door... My husband and daughter made my life unbearable, so I packed up and left. And that's when everything fell apart. My name is Celeste. I'm 44. For 21 years, I was the person who kept everything running. The meals, the laundry, the bills, the appointments, the grocery lists, the birthday cards for people my husband forgot existed. I worked the front desk at a dental clinic 5 days a week, came home, and started my second shift. That was my life, and for a long time, I told myself it was enough. My husband, Garrett, sold flooring for a regional company. He traveled maybe 1 week a month, sometimes 2. When he was home, he sat in his recliner, scrolled his phone, and waited to be fed. Our daughter, Brinley, was 17. She used to be my shadow, used to sit on the counter while I cooked, used to draw me cards that said, "Best Mom," in crayon. I don't know when that stopped. I do know when I first noticed the shift. It was a Tuesday. I came home from work with a migraine. I asked Brinley if she could heat up leftovers for dinner. She looked at me and said, "Dad says you're always making things harder than they need to be." I blinked. "What?" "He said you exaggerate when you're tired." I stood there holding my purse, coat still on, and something cold moved through me. "I have a migraine, Brinley." She shrugged and walked away. That night, Garrett came in late. I told him what Brinley said. He laughed. "She's a teenager, Celeste. Don't be so sensitive." "She said you told her I exaggerate." "Maybe you do sometimes." I didn't argue. I took 2 aspirin and went to bed. Sometimes I think the things that break you don't make any noise at all. They just settle in, quiet, and you don't realize the weight until your knees buckle. At work, my friend Nadine noticed things before I did. Nadine was the hygienist in Operatory 3. She'd known me for 9 years. "You look tired," she said one morning. "I'm always tired." "No, you look done tired. Different thing." I shrugged it off, but she kept watching. At home, the pattern deepened. Garrett and Brinley had their own rhythm. They watched shows together, ordered food without asking me, went to the mall on Saturdays while I cleaned. When I tried to join a conversation, Garrett would talk over me and Brinley would laugh. One evening, I walked into the living room. They were on the couch sharing a bag of chips, watching some reality show. I sat down on the armchair. "What are we watching?" I asked. Garrett didn't look at me. "We're on episode 6. You wouldn't get it." "I could catch up." "Ugh," Brinley groaned. "Mom, just let us watch." I stood back up, went to the kitchen, wiped the counter that was already clean. Another night I made pot roast, set the table, called them both. Garrett walked in, looked at the plate, and said, "We already ate. Grabbed burgers on the way home." Brinley didn't even come downstairs. I sat at that table alone and ate pot roast with my hands shaking. "Why didn't you tell me?" I asked later. "I texted you," Garrett said. He hadn't. I checked 3 times. I started pulling back a little, testing. I stopped reminding Brinley about her orthodontist appointments, stopped ironing Garrett's shirts, stopped asking how anyone's day was. Nobody noticed. Not for 2 weeks. My mother called on a Sunday. She lived 3 hours away in a small house near the coast. We talked maybe twice a month. She was 71, sharp as ever. "You sound flat," she said. "I'm fine, Mom." "You're not. But you'll tell me when you're ready." I almost cried right there. I hadn't cried in months. I didn't feel allowed to. I think that's the thing people don't understand about being invisible in your own home. You start to believe you're supposed to be. Nadine invited me to lunch that week. We sat in her car in the parking lot eating sandwiches. "Can I say something blunt?" she asked. "When do you not?" "Your husband treats you like furniture, and your daughter's learning how." I looked out the window. She's 17. 17-year-olds learn from what they see. What am I supposed to do? I don't know. But you can't keep running on empty and calling it normal.
That conversation sat in my chest for days. The following weekend, I tried one more time. I suggested the three of us go out for dinner, somewhere casual, just to sit together. Garrett looked up from his phone. "Where?" "That Italian place on Birch Street. We haven't been there in a while."
"I'm not really in the mood. Brinley, what do you think?"
She didn't take her eyes off her laptop. "I already have plans with Sierra." "You could cancel."
"Why would I cancel for dinner?"
Garrett shrugged at me like he'd proved a point.
"See? Nobody wants to go."
I stood in the middle of my own living room and felt like a stranger asking for permission to exist. Then came my birthday, April 9th. I turned 44. I didn't expect a party. I didn't expect a cake. But I expected someone to say the words. Garrett left for work early. Didn't say it. Brinley went to school. Didn't say it. I checked my phone at lunch. Nothing from either of them. Nadine brought me a cupcake. Dr. Alderman, the dentist, signed a card. The other receptionist, Margot, hugged me. My coworkers remembered. My family didn't. I came home that night, and the house was dark. Garrett was watching a game in the den. Brinley was in her room. I walked past Garrett. He didn't look up. I stopped in the doorway. "Do you know what today is?" He glanced at me. "Tuesday?" I nodded slowly. Walked upstairs. I stood in the bedroom, and something inside me clicked. Not broke. Clicked. Like a lock turning. I sat on the bed, opened my phone, and searched for apartments. By Friday, I had signed a lease on a 1-bedroom near the clinic. $700 a month. Small, clean, mine. Saturday morning, I packed while Garrett was at the hardware store and Brinley was at a friend's house. 2 suitcases, a box of personal things, my mother's quilt, my work shoes. The suitcase zipper sounded louder than anything I'd ever heard in that house. My hands were shaking. Behind me, the kitchen faucet dripped into a sink full of dishes no one else would touch. I pulled the bag off the bed and caught my reflection in the hallway mirror. Mascara smudged, jaw tight, eyes that didn't look like mine anymore. I grabbed my keys. The front door closed behind me, and I did not look back. I left a note on the counter. Short. "I've left. I need space. The bills are in the blue folder in the kitchen drawer. Brinley's dentist appointment is Thursday." Even leaving, I was managing things for them. Looking back now, I see how I gave pieces of myself away for years, and nobody ever asked if there was anything left. Garrett called that evening. I let it ring. He called again. I picked up the third time. "Where are you?" "I moved out." "What do you mean, moved out?" "I mean, I don't live there anymore." "Celeste, this is ridiculous." "Okay." "Come home." "No." He hung up. Brinley didn't call that night, or the next. On Monday, I went to work like normal. Nadine looked at me and knew. "You did it," she said. "I did it." She didn't ask if I was okay. She just handed me coffee and squeezed my arm. The first week was strange. My apartment was quiet. I ate when I wanted, slept when I wanted. I didn't cook for anyone. I didn't clean anyone's mess. I sat on my couch at 8 o'clock on a Wednesday night and realized I hadn't sat still like that in years. It was terrifying. And it was the most peaceful I'd felt in a decade. Then things started falling apart back at the house. Garrett called me the next Friday. His voice was different, tighter. "The water bill didn't get paid." "I told you. Blue folder." "I didn't see it." "Then look harder." "Celeste, I'm not your secretary, Garrett." He went quiet. Then, "Brinley hasn't been eating real meals." "She's 17. She can cook." "She doesn't know how." "Whose fault is that?" He didn't answer. 2 days later, Garrett called again. This time, it was about the laundry. "The machine's making a noise," he said. "It always makes that noise. You have to clean the filter." "What filter?" I almost laughed. 21 years in that house, and the man didn't know the washing machine had a filter. "Bottom left, small panel. Turn the cap and clean it out." "Can you just come do it?" "No, Garrett. This is insane." "This is laundry." He hung up on me again. That was becoming his signature move. 3 days later, Brinley texted me. One line. "This is so selfish of you." I stared at that message for a long time. Then I typed back, "I hope one day you understand." She didn't respond.
At work, Margot told me she'd been through something similar with her ex. "They don't see you until you're gone," she said. "And then they're mad that you left, not sorry for what they did." That hit me square in the chest. My mother called again. I told her everything this time, all of it. She was quiet for a while. "You should have left sooner," she said. "I know. But you left. That's the part that matters." "I feel guilty about Brinley." "You should feel guilty about what you were teaching her by staying." That sentence stayed with me longer than anything anyone else had said. The second week, I got a call from Brinley's school. Her grades had dropped. 2 missing assignments. A teacher concerned about her attitude in class. "I don't live in the household anymore," I told the counselor, a woman named Deborah. "You'll need to contact her father." There was a pause. "Oh, I see. I'm sorry." "Don't be." Garrett called again after that. Angrier now. "Her school called me at work. I had a client meeting." "Welcome to parenting, Garrett." "You're punishing her to punish me." "I'm not punishing anyone. I'm surviving." He said something under his breath. I didn't catch it. I didn't need to. I learned something in those weeks. When you stop carrying everything, the people who depended on you don't become grateful. They become furious. Then the financial truth came out. Week 3. Garrett called me, and this time he sounded scared. "I need the login for the savings account." Why? I just need it. How much is in there, Garrett? There should be about 14,000. Should be? I borrowed from it. My stomach dropped. How much? Most of it. I closed my eyes. How much is left? 1,800. He'd drained over $12,000. On what? I didn't know yet. Later I found out, equipment for a side business he never told me about. A trailer, tools, a pressure washer, all sitting in a storage unit I didn't know existed. You spent our savings and didn't tell me. I was going to put it back. When? He didn't answer. I hung up. I sat in my apartment and stared at the wall. Everything I'd built, every budget I'd squeezed, every coupon I'd clipped, every overtime shift I'd picked up. Gone. Burned through in silence while I was too busy keeping the house alive to notice. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just sat there and felt the last thread snap. The next morning, Nadine found me in the break room before the first patient. "What happened?" she said. "He drained the savings. 12,000. Some business I never heard of." She set her coffee down. "Are you kidding me? Pressure washing equipment, a trailer, storage unit. Did he even make a single dollar from it?" "Not one." She shook her head. "So while you were clipping coupons and picking up extra shifts, he was playing entrepreneur with our safety net. Yeah." "Celeste." "I know." She sat down next to me. "You need a lawyer." "I know that too." I made the call that afternoon, a woman named Priya, family law. She told me to gather every financial document I could access. Bank statements, credit card bills, the storage unit contract. "Hiding marital assets is taken seriously," she said. "He'd say he wasn't hiding. He'd say he forgot to mention it." That's what they all say. By month 2, things were different. Brinley's friend's mother, a woman named Tamara, reached out to me. She said Brinley had been staying over a lot, that Brinley mentioned the house was messy and the fridge was empty. "She misses you," Tamara said carefully. "She just doesn't know how to say it." "She knows how to text," I said. Tamara didn't push. Brinley eventually did call. It was a Thursday night. Her voice was small. "Mom?" "Yeah." "Can I come see your apartment?" I paused. "Why?" "I just want to see it. You told me I was selfish for leaving." She was quiet. I could hear her breathing. "I didn't mean it." "Yes, you did. And maybe one day you'll understand why I left anyway." "Dad said you'd come back." "Dad was wrong." She sniffed. "He can't do anything. The house is disgusting. He forgot to pay the internet. I had to do my homework at Tamara's." "I'm sorry that's happening to you." "Then come back." "No." She started crying. It took everything in me not to break. "I love you, Brinley, but I won't go back to being invisible." She hung up. I sat on the edge of my bed and pressed my palms against my knees until the shaking stopped. Sometimes the people you love the most are the ones who make you disappear. And leaving doesn't mean you stopped loving them. It means you finally remembered to love yourself. I didn't go back. I didn't rescue them. Garrett eventually hired a cleaning service. Brinley learned to make pasta and scrambled eggs. The bills got paid late, but they got paid. The storage unit got emptied. He sold the equipment at a loss. Nadine helped me find a second-hand table for my kitchen. Small, round, just 2 chairs. I set a little plant on it. Ate my meals there every night. Quiet, peaceful. Nobody rolling their eyes. Nobody making me feel like a bother for existing. Margot brought over a candle that smelled like lavender one Saturday. We sat on my small patio drinking wine. "You seem lighter," she said. "I feel lighter." "Good. You deserve it."
3 months after I left, I was sitting on that same patio with a cup of tea. The sun was going down. My mother had sent me a potted plant for the railing. The lavender candle flickered on the windowsill behind me. My apartment wasn't much, but every corner of it was mine. Garrett texted me once more around that time. "Can we talk? Really talk?" I replied, "I've been talking for 21 years, Garrett. You just weren't listening." He never responded. Brinley and I text now. Short messages, careful ones. She sends me pictures of what she cooks. I send her a thumbs up. We're not what we were, but we're not nothing either. I don't know what happens next. I don't know if the distance heals or hardens. But I know that the woman who sat at that dining table, alone on her birthday, eating pot roast with shaking hands, she deserved more. And she finally gave it to herself. Have you ever stayed too long somewhere you weren't appreciated? What was the moment that made you realize it was time to go? I'd love to hear your story. And if this one meant something to you, please leave a like and subscribe. It really helps this channel grow, and there are so many more stories to tell.